this is a company that is led by women. And that is, at times, talking about motherhood and talking about balancing, working and being a mom.
That's right.
I feel like they get it, and that hasn't always been, people understanding your personal experience. That hasn't always, in the workplace, that hasn't always been something I've experienced. So I think it's pretty special.
It is. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another segment of Conversations with Carmen. I am Dr. Carmen Majid, and today I am thoroughly excited to be joined by my colleague and fellow private practice owner, Lauren Pena, licensed marriage and family therapist. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Really excited. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and we've had the pleasure of working kind of behind the scenes for the last few months in terms of provider spotlight and conversations with Carmen. So I feel like I've gotten an opportunity to know you a lot better, and now I have you on my platform here. So super excited.
Yes, I'm excited and a bit nervous too, but happy to be here.
Definitely, I understand. Okay, alrighty. Well, let's just kind of dive right in and see where the conversation takes us today.
Okay.
I know that you are not originally from California. You are from Northern Virginia. And I'm just curious about what was it like growing up in Virginia? What was your childhood like? Because I know when we chatted a few days ago, you really were very excited about talking to me about your childhood. You said you had a great childhood. And I'm just curious to hear a little bit more, whatever you're willing to share.
Sure. I grew up in Northern Virginia, about 45 minutes east of Washington, D.C. So that proximity was amazing in a lot of ways because you could be a part of a lot of history, essentially. So field trips we were fortunate to be able to go to the Smithsonian museums.
Wow.
I attended a couple inaugurations.
That's great.
And in high school, I rowed crew, and that was on the Potomac River.
Wow.
So you're rowing and you're seeing the National Monument and historical landmarks. And so looking back, I, really feel fortunate that I was able to have those experiences. But I did, grow up in Virginia where it was very suburban and, I went to public and private school, had great experiences with both. And I think I was telling you that I definitely attribute, looking back, feeling like it was a great childhood. I credit that to my parents. My parents are incredible people and incredible role models, and they provided a safe, loving, caring, nurturing environment to grow up in, and modeled respect, caring for others, integrity, being of service.
It's amazing.
And, in the type of work that we do as therapists, the more and more that I do this work, the more I, come to realize how special, how rare that is, and what a gift it is to be able to say that, what a privilege it is to be able to say that. And so I credit that to my parents. And then, that safety and stability allowed me to feel comfortable and confident to try to have different experiences in the world. To just be ready to leap into different things.
Definitely. Yeah, that's exactly what came to mind just not even 10 seconds ago, just like the element of risk-taking. Within reason, of course, because it's every parent's goal, and now you and I are parents, so it's obviously part of our mission to keep our kiddos safe and well protected, but at the same time, though, to extend them opportunities to take leaps of faith, to put themselves out there, to risk making mistakes or fumbling, and to hopefully be able to circle back to us for comfort, for feedback, and not be ashamed or be afraid or whatever the case may be. Always knowing where your safe space is. And you're right. Not everyone is able to say that, so that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So what eventually brought you to California? Like, help me understand that timeline. Did you spend your formative years in Virginia? Were you there as a young adult? What brought you eventually to Cali?
Yeah. So I grew up coming out here on an annual basis because my mom's family is from California,
Okay.
and my parents actually met out here at Whittier College.
Wow.
And my dad was originally from the East Coast too, but work took them back to Virginia. And after my undergraduate degree, I was really searching for what I wanted to do, and I had a lot of different experiences. In undergrad, I was building up my resume. I was working as a docent at a local museum. I was working at the Student Art Gallery. As a docent, I was co-directing the thesis exhibitions for seniors in our art department. And I was teaching art to the homeschool community, so I was trying to really, build that up so that it would build momentum, and launch into a job after
Sure.
school.
Yeah.
Didn't, and I found myself really searching for something. A friend and I ended up doing the Disney College program.
Yes, that's right. You mentioned that. Yeah.
After school, and
Cool.
that was fun because we got to live and work at Disney.
Yeah.
And we were both art majors, and we were both trying to find a creative way into the creative side of Disney. And for me, my dream was to be an Imagineer.
Yeah.
And I ended up working at Pinocchio's Village House the whole time, and but we did find creative ways to be a part of Disney
Right.
in that role. And then when that program ended, I returned to Virginia and worked in the Catholic school system for a bit. That was something that was really familiar to me. My mom, taught in Catholic schools, and for me, what drew me in there was being of service to others.
Yeah.
And but it still didn't feel like I had found it yet, what I was meant to do. And I had always been interested in illustration, and so
Right.
I applied to graduate school out in San Francisco, and so that's what took me out to California.
Yeah.
I was up there for about 5 years.
Okay.
Did the graduate program, and met my husband up there. But when I was in the program, it's a lot of hours doing work on your own, and there's a lot of isolation. And I think I learned that I was missing opportunities to connect, to collaborate, to do critiques, and the thought of doing a freelance career full time felt really daunting. And I think I was telling you too that we had the opportunity to do internships at the end of the program, and one of the ones that I applied for was at a arts nonprofit organization called Intersection for the Arts, and they did a lot of community-based art programming, and I loved that. But it was an illustration.
Right.
It wasn't children's book illustration.
Right.
And so I was still finding myself gravitating more towards those type of opportunities.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like there were sort of two sides of you trying to not necessarily compete, but it seems like you were trying to find the middle. So on the one hand, incredibly gifted and talented in this one area. At the same time, though, incredibly in search of and in need of collaboration, connecting with people. I remember we talked about just your longstanding interest in just being a part of the community, whether it's in a position of service or just collabing with peers, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
You also shared, because we a bulk of our conversation a few days ago was just about your affinity for the arts, and you did mention that becoming a children's book illustrator was once upon a time a long desired goal of yours. You also shared how you ended up extending your grandfather's some caretaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the ways that you bonded with him was through art. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, after graduating from the academy,
Yeah.
I was again searching for, what was going to take off. What was my life going to be like? What
Yeah.
was my career going to be like? And
Yeah.
I so resonate with people, that I work with that are struggling in that area because I felt it at that time. I was working an art retail job and as a production assistant at a design company and at a bakery. And I was trying to survive and trying to, also apply to jobs that, I had the experience in, and also jobs that I had done before. But the job market was tough at that point, and nothing was taking off. And, at that same time, my grandmother, who was down here in California, she unexpectedly passed suddenly, and she was the caregiver full-time for my grandfather who had Alzheimer's, and my family jumped in again, jumping in to be of service. My parents do that, and they've modeled that to me, and so they sold their home in Virginia, and they came out here. My mom got a job out here, and I came once a month down here from San Francisco to help give them some respite for doing that. And then at some point, that brought us down here full time.
Yeah.
And I was looking for a way to connect with him. We were watching old movies. We were doing light gardening. But there was a lot of time spent sitting and him seeming kind of lost in his thoughts. And I had gone to a conference at for children's book illustrators, and adult coloring books were kind of at the peak at that time.
Yeah.
And I had one that I brought home with me, and I shared it with him one afternoon, and we did watercolor. And what struck me about that experience was that he engaged with me, and he sat for a long period of time.
Wow.
And it was enjoyable, or at least it seemed enjoyable for him.
Yeah.
And I started to do that kind of on a weekly basis. And I was, looking for ways to connect too, not just with him, but to kind of get to know Southern California, because that was really new to me.
Sure.
And, moving from San Francisco and leaving our community up there, and then going into caregiving full time, not knowing anybody except for my parents and my husband, was tough. And I started a blog about our drawing together.
Wow.
And that was a special experience because it documented our art making together, and then also allowed me to share what we were doing to our friends and family. And eventually I was searching for a way to, could this be something that I do full time? And that led me to find the art therapy program at LMU.
Right. Yeah. Which is, that's what I was actually going to ask you about next. That's wonderful. Yeah. So spending that time with your grandfather, it sounds like not only did it bond you to even more so and just build on that relationship, but it also met what it sounds like an innate need of yours to be of service. So it helped to sort of check that box a little bit, if you will. It sounds like it was gratifying. It sounds like he responded well.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like it might have actually helped to inform next steps for you.
It did. Like you were saying before, like it kind of felt like two things. I was pulled in two directions. That experience felt like this is kind of the culmination of all of my different strengths and interests, and seeing the impact that it can have on somebody through art.
Definitely.
Something that I love so
Exactly.
much, something I feel so strongly and passionate about, and to see that it also has this amazing,
Exactly.
avenue that it can take into people's
Definitely.
lives and impact them. And
Definitely.
that was exciting. I didn't know about that before.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that possibility.
Exactly.
And it really resonated with me once I found out about it. When I looked at that program for LMU, it was the biggest aha moment
Yeah,
for me.
This is for me.
I got goosebumps just now just saying it again
Exactly.
because I really so strongly
Absolutely.
remember that that feeling like there is spot. There is a spot for all these things that I've been working towards. And and I just did everything I needed to do to apply and hope that it would, happen. And thankfully it did.
Yeah. Talk about goodness of fit. That's amazing. And it's, I think that's your journey, especially how you ended up spending that wonderful time with your granddad and doing everything that you did with him and for him, is definitely, for me, an example or a reiteration of how things work out when and how we least expect them to. Obviously, you could not have anticipated that you would wind up coming down to, SoCal and taking care of him and spending that time. We don't know when life events are going to transpire.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about going with the flow and going with it. And you were just sort of naturally being yourself, like you said, raised to be of service, raised to make family a priority. It was kind of like a no-brainer. Of course you were going to come down here and help. Of course. And then look what came out of it as well. So just a natural step along, just in terms of next steps in your life. So.
And it looks natural now,
Great.
looking back at the time,
Yeah.
when you're in it, you're responding, but you're hoping that it's going to come together in some way. And I didn't know, we thought we'd go back to San Francisco. I thought I might go back to Virginia at some point. And
wow.
did not know how it would come together, but definitely have peace now looking back.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
yeah.
So Loyola Marymount, yes. I mean, we talked about that.
Yeah.
I shared with you that I was there as well.
Yeah.
And marriage and family therapy program, different track, but same school and same goosebump, pimply feeling. I love that school. It was an amazing part of my educational journey. So, talk to us a little bit about what that journey was like. I know you enjoyed the school thoroughly, the program.
Yeah.
What stood out?
I loved it from day one. The faculty, were amazing. I think it felt like it was a program that utilized everything I was interested in and then taught me how to intertwine it into this amazing job description. Being a marriage and family therapist who specializes in clinical art therapy. They had so many opportunities built into the program. I was a part of the Helen B. Land Garden Clinic, which did a lot of community practicum sites. And so my first practicum was at Dolores Mission School in Boyle Heights. I did individual therapy to kids there in the Catholic school system again, but in a different capacity. And then, my full practicum experience that second year was at the Housing Authority in Long Beach. And, a very different experience, but it was unique in that, there was therapy on site at Carmelitos. And so you were getting to see clients in a really unique way being on site. And I did individual for kids and teens and adults there, and was able to develop some groups for teens and adults, and at a local elementary school. It allowed me to try out different things that were strengths of mine, and I had a lot of support and encouragement, and that was all coming from LMU and the program there. And the other part that was really exciting and amazing for me was there were these community-based trip opportunities that you could, try to become a part of. And one of them that I was a part of was in Northern California, Hoopa Valley Reservation. And a group of us were led by an alumni, Dr. Jessica Bianchi, who's now a faculty member at LMU. She led a group of us to Hoopa Valley to do a weeks-long art activities that were informed by
Yeah.
art therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were built on the community's connection to the river and that being a life source for them.
Wow.
And so we did, you know, art individually in the classrooms, and then it culminated into an installation at the end of the week. And we brought everyone together and to share in that experience. And I had no idea that would be something that I would be able to be a part of. And but again,
Goodness.
being a part of different communities and learning from different communities and learning how art can be impactful. And informed by therapy. We weren't doing
Right.
art therapy, but
Right. Right.
seeing how it can unfold in other ways, and
Sure.
that was also through LMU. Post graduation, I was a fellow for the clinic, the Helen B. Langarten Clinic at Thomas Riley, a high school for pregnant and parenting teens. So I continued to have additional experiences in different communities with the support and supervision of LMU faculty.
That's wonderful.
They're amazing. I really had, like you were gushing about your experience.
Yes, absolutely. Just a very supportive environment. Just, obviously had excellent professors, excellent educational experiences. I felt really, coming out of that program, I felt really confident as a therapist. Definitely had taken in some skill building, and it had leveled up. But the community and LMU's connection to the community and their commitment to nudging people outside of the confines of campus. Yes, this is your home base. This is what we're here to educate, train you, get you ready. But also you need to go out and connect, make those connections, be of service. Establish your footprints, see what's out there, because most of life happens subsequent to graduation and all those those rituals, those culmination rituals, special times for sure. But then you got to go out there and actually practically apply everything you've taken in. I'm really curious before we move on. Camp Suzanne, was that also during your time at LMU?
That was right after graduation.
Okay. Okay.
That was also led by Dr. Jessica Bianchi as well.
Sure.
A group of us went to a women's prison up in Northern California, and we collaborated with Camp Suzanne. And so essentially children from Southern California were bused up to the women's prison to spend a week with bonding with their moms. And some of them hadn't seen their moms in years. Some it had been shorter than that. And what we did or tried to do was again create art activities and keeping things in mind like materials and types of directives that would potentially help facilitate connection. Again, not art therapy, but informed by art therapy. And we were there to support that and show, different, art activities that could be done at the prison for a week.
Love it.
With the moms and the kids.
And I know a week is not that long, but in retrospect, were you able to note any positive outcomes? Did anything shift, even the subtlest?
I remember seeing the disconnect in some of the dynamics between mom and child, and it being really tough for them. I think there was a mutual happiness and excitement to see each other, but when there was that time, knowing how to connect was difficult. I did see that. There was a family where there were a couple of siblings, and there was some challenges that came up, but there was a lot of positive body language and emotion that was shown during the course of the week. So we were able to see that. It was also really heartbreaking. You feel for the moms and the kids and that distance and knowing how short of a time that was.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of motivation from us to try to make it, to do as much as we could to make it special.
Absolutely. Create those memories.
Yeah.
Because the memories are really what most of us, all of us, hang on to, when there's a little bit of an emotional lull, or you're missing that person intensely, or just, I don't know. Yeah, memories are very important. So.
Yeah, I think that was part of the end project, was a memory book, if I'm remembering correctly. Now that you said that, I'm remembering
Nice.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that in a while.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So you eventually made your way around and found Soul Tenders. I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
And you started as an associate.
Yeah.
And I want to say you wore a few different hats. What did that journey look like?
Yeah. Well, I was, looking back in my cohort, there was a lot of interest in private practice, and I didn't have any at the time. I thought I would be doing community-based work, and post-graduation I was as a fellow, and then also I was in a solely art therapist role. I was doing art therapy in the home for pediatric palliative care, and unfortunately that program ended suddenly, and I didn't know what my next steps would be, but I had a dear friend from my cohort who had actually started at Soul Tenders, and she was having a positive experience, and so I thought, okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's give it a go.
Right.
And I started as an associate, and what that meant at the time was, being a part of the Soul Tenders support team, so doing, the intake and helping patients get connected to services here.
Yeah.
And then the other part was doing private practice out of the Whittier location. And I found that I really liked it. And I liked kind of deciding, having a bit more of a say. It didn't come so much at the beginning as an associate, but I was getting a feel for it.
Yeah.
And then I had 3 children since starting then, and during that time transitioned also to get licensed. And I saw a lot of different. I saw Soul Tenders grow a lot during that time, a lot.
Yeah.
Notably, responding to the need of the pandemic and transitioning, almost it felt like overnight to telehealth.
Absolutely.
And then also from the associate side, there were things to figure out too, to, ensure that could happen.
For
and
sure.
they did. And, the support was there. And and I, going through becoming a mom and going through pregnancy and working, that's new territory.
Absolutely.
And, I felt really supported both as an associate and as a licensed clinician as well. And so that is
amazing.
That has been a big reason why, I continue to just feel that support and enjoy, what I do here.
For sure.
Be a part of this community.
Definitely. And it is a community.
Yeah.
It really, we talked about this extensively. It does feel very family-oriented, community-oriented. First and foremost, we're here to show up for clients and to make sure things are done with integrity and things are done legally and ethically and within, defined parameters. It is a business, but along with that, they're always there. No matter what's going on, you have a bona fide support system. So that was actually going to be my next question. How does Soul Tenders continue to support you? How does that support show up?
Definitely has shown up in motherhood. Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it.
Going on maternity leave, that's and transitioning your clients, to another therapist, and it was brand new, and I felt so much support. And then you don't know how it's going to be coming back,
Right.
but then there was that support again to help you get back to where you wanted to be, what felt manageable. It wasn't, take it all on at once.
Right.
Do something that feels realistic
Right.
and manageable. And sometimes for me, I need those reminders,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I have felt the support from, this is a company that is led by women. And that is, at times, talking about motherhood and talking about balancing, working and being a mom.
That's right.
I feel like they get it, and
Oh,
that hasn't always been, people understanding your personal experience. That hasn't always, in the workplace, that hasn't always been something I've experienced.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty special.
It is. It definitely is. Like a delicate blend. Definitely a delicate blend of the two worlds. Yeah, I would have to agree. What kinds of populations do you typically see in your practice? Who do you work with?
When I started here, I definitely had a lot more kids. Currently right now, I see a lot of adults. It tends to be mostly adult women.
Okay.
I do have a handful of kiddos and teens. Right now, my schedule doesn't have as much availability for that after-school time slot as I once did.
Yep.
But that might change in the future. Yeah, that's
Okay, wonderful.
individual.
Individual.
Sometimes I do family work.
Okay.
Just depending on
Yeah.
what the need
What
is.
the need is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And do you, at this point, do you integrate any art therapy into your practice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I still
Great.
do. It looks different than it did in the office because I
Yeah.
do work remotely
Okay.
currently. But I do, and it is very client-centered. So often directives will be responding to things that are coming up in the room in that session.
Yeah.
And in the intake session, I do always share, about my experience and that I'm an art therapist. And sometimes that I can see the nervousness and I can see, or the excitement, or just kind of like, what is that?
What is that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I put it, out there in case it does resonate with anybody. But, what I found over, the years that I've been doing this so far is that more often than not, there is something that somebody has done creatively in their life at some point, and it's not the same, but it often finds a way to surface at some time in our time together. And often, I will lean into that with the art directives, and a lot of times it's been really a game changer in the course of our therapy.
Nice.
And I also want to note, too, that you do not have to have any skill to do art therapy.
Yeah.
I think that is often
It's a typical
something,
question.
that
great.
comes up, but you don't. It is about the process,
Nice.
and it is about what comes up during the process. Sometimes things are really hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Sometimes things that you're not sure how to articulate, but often they can come out and emerge through
Love it.
through the art and give words to something that you've been thinking about
sure.
or an emotion that you've been feeling.
Yeah.
And that is,
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps again. That's
Yeah.
like the magic. That's why I do
Yeah.
it, because
Yeah.
I believe in it so much. But yeah, I do. But I lean into it, and meet the client where they are, and what they feel
That's right.
comfortable with. And sometimes we'll do art, and sometimes we won't. And both are okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is really about being client-centered, and like you said, meeting the client where they are, respecting how fast or slow they want to go, but at the same time, though, realizing, tucked away in the back of your mind, understanding that art therapy is really, well, in my mind, it really is very projective. And as clinicians, we're trained to be able to recognize, when something has the potential of pulling out of a client what it is that they either are not aware of or that they're aware of, but they just don't have the language or the verbiage or the confidence to be able to speak to. So something like drawing or writing or poetry or whatever it might be, we know the potential there. But again, it's like, okay, we excited and
Yeah.
ooh, you know, I can. This
Yeah.
is like bursting with potential. But okay, one step at a time. You know, it is
Yeah.
about the client and how they want to pace this. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
You know,
And I definitely do have
love
to
it.
temper that, because I
Yes.
have that excitement, but I have to,
Yep.
lean into where they are
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
sometimes, handle it with a lot of care and
For sure.
gentleness. And
For sure.
a lot of times we've gotten there.
Yeah.
But on their timeline and their pace.
Absolutely. But that speaks to that being your area of expertise. You know the potential that's there. You know the richness that is attainable. If that's
Yeah.
where the client wants to go.
Yeah.
To what degree or extent. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other areas of like clinical specialty or anything else that you're trained or certified in? Or I always refer to this as a professional bucket list. Anything you're interested in being trained or certified in?
Yeah, I'm currently working on a intensive training for autism spectrum disorder.
Wow.
I'm
Great.
working my way through that.
Excellent.
But EMDR is at the top of my list. And I know you've said this before too.
Same
I
here.
continue to hear such amazing things about it.
Over and over.
And yeah, over and over. And I had a supervisor at the housing authority who he was doing EMDR, and at the time it was still really new, and it hadn't taken off in the way that it certainly has taken off now. But I, from back then, remember, seeing how incredible and transformative, that can be. And so for me, it's just setting aside that time commitment to get that training. But that is my bucket list.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes, I'm on that bucket list with you. Yes. It's going to happen. It's going to happen for both of us. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, my last question or statement or something I'd love to have you lean into just a little bit is just talking a little bit about motherhood. I know your babies are young, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that journey of mommying 3 youngsters, and then another sort of, I call this trivia, a little trivia fact about you that I just love over and over. You and your mom have been taking a tap dancing class together since 2018. I absolutely love that. So I'd love to hear whatever you're willing to share about that as well.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. We have a 4.5-year-old daughter. We have a 2.5-year-old son, and we have a 10, almost 11-month-old daughter. And they are my absolute favorite people in the whole world. They are bundle of energy, bundle of fun, making us laugh, testing us all the time. Yeah, it is. It is the best job. It is the best journey, that I have ever been on, and one that I am, so tremendously grateful to be on. And yeah, I
love it.
I love it. I love being a mom, and I just love it.
I understand.
I'm thinking about them.
I understand.
I'm thinking about them right now,
and
just all of the little sweet things that they say and do, and I think that's kind of going back a little bit. That's what I value so much about working here at Soul Tenders, is being able to be a mom and work, and to be able to create my own schedule and be able to adjust things as needed so that I can show up to preschool for special, a fun run that happened a couple weeks ago, and that I can do that, and that this job has that flexibility to allow me to do both, because it is really hard to juggle, being a mom and working full time, as you know, and it is hard, and it is really hard and rewarding, but something that I do for taking care of myself once a week is I do this tap dancing class with my mom.
Love it.
It had been on my radar, a couple years before we joined, but the timing didn't sync up with my schedule, and finally it did, and I asked my mom if she would do it with me, and we were both nervous to try it, and a little reluctant, but interested. And I'll tell you what, our first class, we were welcomed with open arms to this wonderful community of women who, we have the commonality that we all are there to tap dance, but they, we're there, learning routines, but we're also supporting each other. We're, they were part of my journey into motherhood and throughout motherhood, and so it's been another community that special that emerged from that experience, and I get to do it with my mom.
Yep.
I mean,
How special.
I get to do it with my mom. It's amazing. And we've performed together, and I've tapped through pregnancies. I've performed through pregnancies.
Oh my goodness.
It's just been a really special experience, but it also is a way that I take care of myself. Right now, I can't carve out too much more time during the week to do much else with working and the kids, but I do tap dance, and it is a lot of fun.
That's great. That sounds great. I love it. Yeah, like you said, self-care, but then it also enables you to show up in all these other equally important ways. You've got to be able to tend to yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
But it's hard for me, having a class is helpful. So I'm accountable to that.
Yep.
Because otherwise I will.
Yeah. I need to go over here and do that.
Yep. Meet whatever need is coming up.
Yes.
And there are many.
For sure.
You've shared a little bit with me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that is lovely. I absolutely love that. It sounds like a really well-rounded life, situation that you have going. And I know, the life experience ebbs and flows. I'm sure there are days where you definitely devote more attention over here and maybe less and vice versa. But I think overarchingly it sounds really wonderful and really balanced, and just comprehensive. So, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Alrighty. Well, I think our time is coming to an end, but I'm just so thankful and grateful for you to have shared this space with me today. Absolutely loved getting to know you that much more. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This was delightful and not as scary as I thought it was going to be.
Exactly. I knew you would be just fine. So, as always, sometimes our viewers have questions for my guests. And so if any of our viewers have questions or would like to reach out to you, what's the best email address they can reach you at?
Sure. It's lpena, Pena, .ip @soultenders.com.
Perfect. And as always, if anyone has questions for me about Conversations with Carmen, you can reach out to me at my email address, cmajid.ip@soultenders.com. That's cmajid.ip@soultenders.com. Or if you have questions about the Provider Spotlight process, feel free to reach out to Provider Relations at providerrelations@soultenders.com. Once again, I was joined by Lauren Pena, licensed marriage and family therapist. Thank you once again, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us.